Old Grognard says, let's learn how piecemeal armor works in 2nd edition AD&D. The piecemeal armor system in 2nd edition refers to the system used to calculate a character's armor class if they just have certain limbs covered in armor, or are wearing more than one type of armor on their person. So if a character insisted on just wearing chainmail pants and nothing else, this is what you would use to figure out their armor class. After I go over how this works in 2nd edition, I'm going to try to give some guidance on how this can be applied to a game that uses the 5e SRD. The game material that I'm going to reference is the Player's Option Combat and Tactics book. The chart for piecemeal armor is on page 128, but most of the text that goes with it, like the part that tells how to add pieces together, starts on page 146. I'm not sure why. The table lists different types of armor and what the AC value is for each type. And along with that, the value for each body part that is covered, like torso, each arm, and each leg. Helmets aren't figured into AC and have an armor class of their own, so we're just going to focus on armor. If you don't have the table in front of you, but want to know how to reconstruct it, it assigns half of the weight and AC to the torso. Each arm is 10% of the weight and AC, and each leg is 15% of the AC and weight. It varies a little here and there due to them rounding off, and maybe they moved a pound here and there to try to make it look like this isn't how they calculated out their table, but most of it conforms to this. There's also nothing I could find on how to price piecemeal armor. You could price it using the percentage of the whole. For example, since an arm is 10% of AC, it's 10% of the cost. Or you could also just go the route that each piece is 20% of the cost, with the reasoning that arms and legs are more complicated to make than torso armor. This makes the math easier and gives an in-world incentive for why so many types of armor prioritize the torso, with half the AC for only 20% of the cost. Enough metaphorical sausage making theory. Let's make actual metaphorical sausages. For example, we have this armor. It's from 16th century Italy. The torso protection is brigandine. Let's calculate that first. A full suit of brigandine is AC 6 in 2nd edition, or in other words, 4 points of armor. This would make the torso armor at 50% of the total worth 2 points. The arms appear to be brigandine as well. That's unusual, but kinda cool. Doing the math, an arm of brigandine is worth 0.4. So both arms are worth 0.8. Our total is up to 2.8. I'm not forgetting the skirt of mail, but since it doesn't cover at least half of each leg, I'll put it aside as a tiebreaker or an excuse to round to the next AC if it's close. Because 2nd edition uses descending AC, we subtract 2.8 from 10 to find the AC. The wearer's AC would be 7.2. On page 147, it tells us that if the decimal AC is 0.3 or less, round down. The AC of this armor set is AC 7, or equivalent to studded leather. The skirt didn't come into play. If it would have been 7.4, I would have used it as an excuse to round down to the next better AC. Again, this isn't an exact science. So what is this used for? This allows you to assign an AC to armor that isn't a full uniform suit. This was common throughout much of history, so you can bring historical and regional armors into your game. Even if this doesn't have much effect on the player characters, you can build standard kit for an army that makes sense in terms of cost and function without using the same armor over and over. If you've ever used this system or another piecemeal system, let us know in the comments. So how does this apply to a game that uses the 5e SRD? There isn't much that can be directly transferred, but it can be used as a logical framework to stat and armor setup. I would use this to primarily compare armor ensembles with each other, and then assign them stats of an equivalent. Armor is set up to work with bounded accuracy, and I wouldn't mess with that. I would consider most armors to be a medium as a default, unless there's a good reason for it to be light or heavy. I would fight the temptation to make something that is more powerful than what already exists. So, no light armor that's AC 13 or medium armor that's AC 16. Instead, I would give the armor the stats of what already exists as far as AC and type, and tweak the other numbers and characteristics around to get it to work. With unusual animal leather and other biological materials available as well, you could have, name of exotic thing, leather, armor, and give it the stats of studded leather. It might even be from a mushroom or a plant. It's your game. Do weird stuff and have fun. For a medium armor, you might do the same thing with the hide armor and say it's exotic creature hide, insert name of, and give it the stats of the chain shirt. This armor would be attractive to druids and others that don't wear metal armor, so I would raise the price a bit. I might also lower the weight. Overall, if I made an armor set, I would make it have the stats of something that already exists, but balance its weight, stealth penalties, costs, minimum strength if any, and if it's made of metal or not. I wish the system was more applicable to the later game, but 2nd edition doesn't have any equivalent of light, medium, and heavy armor. There also isn't any concept of bounded accuracy. That pretty much covers how piecemeal armor works in 2nd edition AD&D. Hopefully the bit on how to apply it to the later game is useful as well. If this was useful or entertaining, give a like or a comment. If it wasn't, and you're totally let down, then comment about that as well. Thanks for watching. This draconic being that has strong objections to being turned into various armor types, and I would like to wish you a wonderful rest of your day.